Well, welcome back, everyone. Good morning. I was gonna make a video responding to Final Fantasy, the Elifalist, Ephalist, however you say that. I think it's Elifalist. Sort of the idea that life is nothing but pain, and that there's no good things in it. This could be objectively measurable. That there is an overabundancy amount of pain in life, and not enough positive to really make life worthwhile at all. Now, I think the difference between the antinatalist argument and the Elifalist argument is that the antinatalists just don't want to procreate to stop everything in its tracks. Whereas the Elifalists want to reduce the human species down to a very minute amount of people and sort of get rid of the human population that way. I suppose I argue from a nihilist standpoint because, to me, pain being a part of life is, well, just that. It's a part of life. And I will not deny that we live in a cruel, dark, fucked up world. I mean, there's people out there that think you should be killed because you're LGBT. There's people who can't get over the idea that we live on this planet with different races or ethnicities of human beings. They just can't get over that fact. Some people that don't like or are terrified of the idea that the world is pushing ever closer to a global economy, which means that it's very well possible, it's possible, not probable, given how human beings can be, that one day we will live under one government. It's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Now, I had this conversation with C.R. Williams on the subject matter of borders. Do I think that we need to have borders? Yes, of course we do. Do I like the idea? Now, the idea of no borders is coming from an idea that we as the human species have progressed so far to the point where they are no longer necessary. Where the world is governed by a fair and due process, that morality is justified through rationalization and logical principles. You know, I don't want people to hurt, like, basically, if it doesn't impinge on others, it should be okay, and there's a lot of minutia to dig through that, but basically it's the whole idea of the Star Trek society. Now, if I said I didn't like that idea, I'd be a liar. Because, I mean, while that idea sounds really great, the human species progressing to a point where geopolitical boundaries are no longer needed, and secularism is the way across the world, and there is just no need for these country boundaries, and all these dictatorships have been eradicated, realizing that human beings want to maximize freedoms and really only want to restrict them if we're not seeing due process. You know, like if somebody gets raped, we want that person to be held accountable. We're also talking about like a justice system that isn't out for revenge, That's not what it should be for. I know when, like, let's say somebody breaks into your house and kills your sister or your wife or your kid, I'm sure you're going to want them dead. I'm sure you're going to want to probably seek that vengeance on your own. But I don't think that's what justice or the justice system should be about. I think it should be about taking dangerous people away from society. I'm not saying that they should have a lavish lifestyle. I mean, they're people that are capable of doing horrible things to others. So, and we're also putting some of that transhumanist idea in there of being able to correct certain certain brain anatomies or neurochemical responses in the brain that produce really bad effects, like sociopathy and psychopathy. Severe narcissism. Like, everybody has the capability of being narcissistic from time to time. I'm talking about a pure narcissist. That they just absolutely cannot see anything wrong with themselves. They are hung up on themselves, like themself, and themself. So, like the idea of finding the ability to correct that so that they're no longer an endangerment to other people, to dehumanize, subjugate, and take advantage of. This sounds like a beautiful world. It really does. I don't know how much of it is truth and how much of it is idealism. And ultimately, I know I made a video about the transhumanist argument, but it is predicated on the idea of belief, is that the belief we will one day be able to do these things. And it's not a horrible idea. Replacing hearts and, growing different organs like, livers, lungs, kidneys, that kind of things in a lab so that no one has to be on a donor list ever again. That's a really great idea. I like it. I can't say that I'm opposed to it. But again, I'm going to reiterate how much of that is realism and how much of it is idealism. And that's the thing. Society is nowhere near the point of saying no borders. We are nowhere near that point. Nowhere fucking near. So it's not going to happen. Not in our lifetime. Probably not in our next of kin's, the next generation, the next generation, the next generation. Human beings have to psychologically evolve to get to that point. And one of the worries that I have moving forward into the future, that people who are very Christo-fascist, very conservative in their way, is that they feel that it's a big threat to who they are. But the fear is that, like, okay, so as society becomes smarter, so let's say that part of the evolutionary process is that our frontal lobes and cerebral cortexes become more active, and we become less and less and less at the mercy of not only just the reptilian brain, but the mammalian brain as well, although there are aspects to the mammalian brain that make us very truly unique and fascinating, and the mammalian brain carries things in it that give the human species the possibility of obtaining these idealistic worlds and ideas, like the empathy and sympathy. That comes from the mammalian part of the brain, not the reptilian. So without empathy and sympathy, we would not be able to even come close to obtaining. So, like, I like the idea of a human species that has evolved beyond the point of needing borders. But right now, as it stands, it won't work. It really will not work. We do not have the ability to allocate resources effectively and efficiently to do it. We do not have the self-responsibility to be that independent, to realize, like, you know, hey, maybe it's not a good idea to have a kid right now because, you know, we're not able to provide means for it. There's all kinds of issues that go into it. Needless to say, I cannot make the video in response to Finalfantasy's rebuttal to one of my videos. I can't do it. All of his comments are gone. They're gone. They are gone. So, into chick making out there, before you get your panties in a twist, I am not saying no borders. I'm saying we as a species, okay, so this is factually speaking, we cannot have a society with no borders. It won't work because humankind, and this is the reason, humankind is not responsible enough or smart enough to be able to navigate such a concept on its own. We can't do it. I think there's some people alive today that probably could make it work if those were the only people on the planet, but goodbye human species. But I think as we get smarter through the ages, our cerebral cortexes, and I think it's a process of evolution, our cerebral cortexes, frontal lobes become higher functioning, and we're going to become more intelligent, and part of growing intelligence is agnosticism, deism, and atheism/nihilism. And part of the concern with that is that as we embark into that, we gaze into that eternal abyss. And what that eternal abyss is what does life mean? What is the point and purpose to life? And there's a lot of humanists out there, a lot of atheists out there, and even nihilists. Some nihilists are saying, why get hung up on your own emotions? Emotions are nothing like these negative emotions of like, yes, the world is cruel, and nature's a backstabbing bitch, but it's like having cosmetics in your luggage. It's like, what good do these emotions, these like hope, what good does hope provide you? What good does it, what does it do? What function does it serve? Other than to make you feel better about something that may or may not happen. And then again, we could look into the minutiae of it and say, what is the probability of it happening? And as that probability gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, the less and less that hope has any good at all. And then you have, the humanist, atheist sort of argument that's, all about creating a more productive society to the human experience. So, one of the things that Friedrich Nietzsche was a fan of is that without the existence of God to define our morality, this was our opportunity to define morality based off of logic and rationality. You know, can you give me a rational argument as to why homosexuality is wrong? There is no victim involved. No one is hurt. It's between two consenting adults. This is how the rationality works. And, you know, you could say, well, it's natural, the animals do it. Well, we don't get our morality from animals. Animals do a lot of things that we do not consider socially or moralistically appropriate. We could use, well, the ancients did it. Again, just because the ancients did something doesn't mean that it's a good idea. The ancients also believed that drilling a hole into the side of a schizophrenic person's head, the reason why they had schizophrenia is they had an ailment where they were infested with demons. They would drill a hole into the side of your head to let the demons escape. And half of the things that they did to try to cure mental ailments would have driven a totally rational, insane person fucking crazy and insane. So just because the ancients did something doesn't mean it's a good idea. Just because animals do something doesn't mean it's a good idea. Just because the Bible says something doesn't mean it's a good idea. And just because it's not enlisted in the Bible doesn't mean that it's not a good idea either. This is the time for human beings to put those brains to work and create a society with a moral cue that makes sense, that is rational, that is logical, and apply that to our legal system. So, sorry, pedophiles, no, you do not get to have your rights because there is a victim. You cannot go around tormenting and giving all these people these weird psychological problems where they have a difficult time establishing relationships, sexual connection, expressing sexuality, being in committed relationships, or behaving in a sexually mature manner, or just, you know, PTSD in general, because you're attracted to an age. An age itself is not a gender. There's a lot of other, like, criminology reports, neurological reports, and medical studies that show that it does all kinds of damage to the person. There's also criminology reports that show that people of the nonce persuasion, they're not really, it's not really a sexual thing as it is about dominancy and being able to dominate somebody or something weaker than you. And I cannot tell you or stress how often the nonces, if they are left unchecked. Actually, I watched a Cold Case Files about this. They eventually commit murder. That's what it eventually boils down to, or they turn into serial rapists. It's not a sex act. It's an act of violence. So, if you didn't know, there are plenty of studies out there to corroborate this. I've left links in the past to the videos where I've covered that and gone over that subject matter in great detail. I'm not going to do it again. Alright, so I'm sorry to Final Fantasy that I can't make the video for you. Good. I haven't done a video like this in a while, where I'm sitting with this sort of backdrop. I would love to get this like little altar thing that I have in shot, because it's got a crow and gargoyle skull things on it. Very dark decor. Love it. Can't get it in though. maybe I'll figure out a way. I don't know. I've been playing around with some mics, and so, like, I want to just take a moment to show you the difference in mic qualities. So all of these samples from mics have not had the audio scrubbed. So I'm going to take a moment to just show you the contrast, just because, like, I want to show off these new toys. I also got a keyboard, and I'm really happy to have one of those again. Hopefully I'll be able to make something and make like a new intro. I'm hoping to be able to do that. So here's the different mics in contrast. Alright, so this is just to demonstrate what the Finalfantacy mic sounds like on the PS4. And this is really amazing because I've tried the Big Yeti on the PS4 and it sounded like complete garbage. The Finalfantacy mic actually is working really, really well with the PS4 software, and it has a really decent sound. And I think that's because the Finalfantacy mic has its own pickup on it. Like, I can adjust what kind of pickup that it has, and it's not bad. I actually kind of like it. And so this is the Finalfantacy mic on the PS4. You're welcome. Just to show you an example of what the Big Yeti sounds like, this is what the Big Yeti sounds like on the computer. It does have two different settings, one that does direct audio directly into the mic, and one that does surround sound capture. I tried both of them on the PS4 with the audio capturing that the PS4 offers, and it sounded like total garbage. So this is what the Big Yeti sounds like on the computer. Then this is the mic that is on the webcam. And I'm sure you can already tell a glaring difference. I'm not doing any audio scrubs on these samples, just so you can hear the difference. So this is a webcam. What the fuck is this? It's a Canon C920. It's a 1080p webcam. Like, the picture quality is great when the lens is cleaned. The audio is complete garbage. Complete garbage. So this is going to be the the mic on this connected to the recording device. So we'll see how that turns out. Ugh. I have a feeling it's not going to be that good. Alright, so I know that the picture cut out there, that fucking sucks. So there will be no video for part of that. Four minutes. 22 minutes of recording and only 4 minutes of fucking video. You gotta be fucking shitting me. Alright. So another one of the current topics has been the goth community, or the left. Liberals are not as edgy as they used to be. So I remember back in the day, the conservatives, the conservatives, you know, the preppy types and the people who want to be a part of the establishment, they were afraid of us. They were afraid of us anti-establishment folks. And I don't know what happened, but it looks like there's aspects from anti-establishment that made it into mainstream, and those people in mainstream that are mimicking the things from countercultures, they don't. They're taking it to a new level. I've said this before. I knew some pagan people that called themselves non-binary, or let's say they called themselves pansexual. That's an easy one to do for linguistic reasons. So the reason why they called themselves pansexual was because they were bisexual, and they did not like the word bisexual because it was too mainstream for them. So to be different than everyone else, instead of calling themselves bisexual, they called themselves pansexual. A lot of gender fluid people referred that to as being androgynous, as embodying both masculine and feminine energy. So then, you have these people in mainstream that take that and run with it, and all of a sudden they become super triggered and offended, like, oh, how dare you? When none of the original people I knew that were using this type of language would become offended by it. If anything, it was more like to be different and to offend the status quo. And I don't think there's anything wrong with pushing the limitations on the status quo. Because they're trying to get people to think about what we consider to be socially acceptable and unacceptable. There's kind of this fuzzy line where it's like, a lot of the things don't matter the way that you think they matter. And so by using these certain languages, it was a way of sort of challenging that. So the challenge, though, in the coming future is that instead of people gazing into the abyss, that we, as a species, establish what life means to us. And I think one of the good aspirations on the table is what we aspire to be in our lives, instead of working humdrum jobs that don't make any sense and that we absolutely hate and despise. We do jobs that we enjoy, and those things contribute to society. There's a lot of philosophers and artists and people who enjoy math, people who enjoy electronics and computers, that are doing things like working retail and fast food. And that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense when their particular desires could be used for even better things. And they would perpetuate our society forward instead of stagnation. To be stagnant is like to rot. Just go look at a puddle of stagnating water and see what it does. Like, look how it smells. Would you drink it? So these are the things that I propose forward. This has kind of been like a ranty video, and I had some ideas, but throughout the week they get lost because I get stressed out, or I have things that cross my mind and I forget about them, and so they don't happen. So I'm hoping that this setup works out really well. And yeah, there's a lot of ums in this video. Sorry about that. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell button on any channel you're subscribed to. Don't be a dick. Don't go around trying to moderate people and report and try to censor people. Support the idea of choices and not one's ability to impose one's will on others against their own will. And, sorry, the video cut out. the visual. Anyway, out.